All right, great.
Big fan.
This is a panel I've been looking forward to. Subscription is a super interesting model, which I think is to some extent under-communicated. And we'll get into a little bit of the weeds of how that actually differs. That's a bit of the purpose of the panel. But rather than me and Praveen doing the actual full introduction, I just want to hear from you. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this and what Swapfiets actually do.
Yeah, so my name is Marc. I work at Swapfiets for a little bit over 4 years now. I joined the three co-founders, the three founders, to help scale and professionalize the company. Scaling went pretty well the last 10 years since we exist, and we are now active in 8 countries, 45 cities, and have 283,000 bikes on the road, and more e-bikes.
Right. What's the penetration of e-bikes?
It depends city by city. Overall, it's now 62,000 e-bikes on the road. So that's average 21%, but we do have cities where it's over 50, 60%.
Remind me to ask you about the margins on the e-bikes after. Christian, tell us about Dance.
Yeah, I'm Christian, co-founder and CEO of Dance. We have been at this for a little bit over 5 years. I'm a kind of software entrepreneur originally, started with that. Then I took a break, got kids, renovated a house, and I was like, what should I do with my life? So I was like, I want something that you can touch, like a real product. I looked into a lot of things, and then I had this e-bike awakening moment. I don't know, everyone here probably had that, where like you're on this thing and you're like, whoa, this is cool. And one thing I did was a small bike repair service where I wanted like an app-based thing. You book it, they pick up your bike repaired. And what I basically saw is that bike repairs is very annoying, long wait times. People buy cheap bikes, don't want to repair them. And I was like, this needs to be different. This needs to be like all the same bikes, cool bikes, assembly line style repair, and it just needs to be effective. And that was basically the idea that then was born to start Dance. Yeah, and we're at this for 5 years. We're in 4 cities. We have about 13,000 members now. Only e-bikes, so we never got into the pedal bikes. Yeah.
Excellent. And then we were just joking behind stage that, James, you are basically creating customers for these guys. Tell us about Bike Club and why you started it.
Yeah. So, hi, I'm James Symes. I'm the CEO and founder of Bike Club. I suppose I came from, I'm not like Christian, he's a proper entrepreneur. I came from KPMG. I was there and I was like, let's do circular economy lending. Very keen cyclist, and was like, let's lend bikes. I was like, oh, adult bikes, that'll never work. These two obviously proved me completely wrong on that front. And then landed on the side of pay monthly kids' bikes, exchange as you grow. And that became this kids' bike subscription service called Bike Club. We now operate in the UK and Germany. We operate nationwide. We send the bikes to people to their doorstep and collect them from there. We've got about 68,000, 70,000 members, 20,000 in Germany, 50,000 in the UK. So I like to say we run the second largest bike subscription network in the world after Swapfiets.
Cool. So let's get a little bit into the specificity of subscription, because it kind of sits between like retail and like the basic leasing and shared micro. Like, what are some of the unique characteristics of building a subscription model? If you go first, since you have the biggest fleet.
Yeah, I think we also look at it. So we have ownership, you have sharing, and subscription really sits in the middle. But if we have to pick an area where we really compete with, it would be ownership. Right. With bike subscription, we give you your own bike to use. So it's not that you share a bike, and every day if you share a bike, you get a new bike. So you get this bike as long as you're a member. And on average, that's over 2 years at the moment. So it's really your bike, but then without the hassle. So you don't need to spend a lot of money buying a bike. If you have a flat tire or whatever, you don't need to wait for 3 weeks before you have a space at the bike shop. So we really give this overnight service of always a working bike without any hassle.
Right. And I think it was some of you that mentioned that this is really being in the e-commerce business. I mean, was that you?
Yeah, certainly for us, we are effectively an e-commerce company that's selling a service, and our service is exchanging as you grow. You know, a child roughly needs 3-4 different sizes of bikes. There are 7 different sizes of kids' bike, and the different sizes you're not quite sure until your child grows, and depends on your cycling journey. And so actually something like Bike Club, it's really selling a service to parents to remove hassle, and that's fundamentally what we're doing. I think ownership in kids' bikes, I don't think anyone here would ever feel they need to own a kids' bike. So it's much less of a competitor for us.
Sure.
It's more, do you have the right service and can you get to the right price point that makes sense for that consumer at the time?
Yeah. But also, to you, Christian, with, I mean, when Dance launched, to me that was like very much a lifestyle brand. Like it was very much focused around the brand and identity and who am I as an urban citizen kind of. But and how does that factor into like the whole subscription perspective?
I think, for us that was key because I think in like. I agree that subscription sits somewhere in the middle. When you look from the customer perspective, it sits very much in ownership, right? It's like, we were always like, we need to have a bike where people are like, oh, this is the bike I want. Like almost like this is the bike I would want to buy as well, right? So it's really create this desire, have the right vehicle, because we have the same, we have an average over two years that customers with us, and you just don't do that when it's a crappy bike that you don't want to ride. So creating that product is essential, and also that brand and so on. At the same time, we have the same thing as sharing, where if we have a repair or a theft or whatever happens to the bike, it's very much our problem and our cost. So we have to kind of, I always say we have to build a tank, but it should never look like a tank and never feel like it, right? And I think when we see also the sharing bikes that are out there now, I mean, kind of weight doesn't matter, battery size doesn't matter, ugliness doesn't matter, the collar can scream as much as it wants, and we kind of need to have something that people desire and want, and at the same time it needs to be very sturdy. And you just land at very different products development when you try to build that.
Yeah. But I mean, you all mentioned without the hassle. So let's get into a little bit of what the hassle is, because Van Moof was up here and announced there, I think they said something like, we'll find your bike within 2 weeks or we'll get you a new one. Do you all have some similar kind of offering or promise on that?
Yeah, for us it's even if your bike is missing, you just report it missing in our app, and basically you get a new bike. And in the background, we start hunting for that bike and
you get a new one same day, or where we look
so
at?
if you enter the store, it's the same day.
Really?
If you need to bring it at your house, which is also a service, might be the day after.
So zero downtime. That's what you promised, basically.
The only real benefit of having no hassle is that you really perform on it. We feel if you enter our store, you need to leave within 5 minutes. So we check if we can fix the bike. If we can fix it within 5 minutes, we will do so. If it takes like 15 minutes, we will set it apart. We will swap the bike, hence the name, and we give you a new one, which is cleaned, which is not new, but it's maintained and serviced like new.
Yeah. Do you have a similar offering? Like, I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean, we don't operate stores, so and there's the tech entrepreneur background. We were like, this phone needs to be your like operating system. So our customers do everything through the app, book repairs and so on, and then we come on site to fix the bikes. With, for example, if you lose your bike, so if it's stolen, it's actually the same. You report it, you get a new bike next day. And then in the background, of course, we go and kind of hunt the bike, look for fraud and stuff like that, because sometimes people lose bikes in their own apartment.
Is this different with kids' bikes?
It's slightly different. So for us, it's slightly more holistic, right? So it's flexibility. So big reason you join Bike Club is that flexibility. You don't know when your child is going to grow out of the bike. Children grow at different speeds. We've got 3 of them. You're never sure when they're going to shoot up. And so really being able to exchange as you grow whenever you want, that's a super helpful feature. But also we do let you return the bike whenever you want. We have some levels of minimum contract, but they're pretty inoffensive for our members. That's just to make it profitable all the time. And so you sort of know if my kid's not going to be so much into it, or perhaps if I'm moving house or I'm moving out of the country, that sort of thing, I can join Bike Club and I can get the right quality of bike for my customer, for my child even, and make that all work. But yeah, for us, we don't need a guaranteed same day bike or anything like that, because fundamentally our sort of experience with the member is really about creating happy family memories, as opposed to what these guys are doing, which is often much more more utility and commuting and that side of things. It's more of an emotional journey we go on with our members. That means you've got to have high quality, aesthetically nice bikes. You've got to have the right colours, the right sizes. It gives you a slightly wider product range, which I think fills these guys with dread, the number of screw codes I have to deal with. But fundamentally, very simple units. You know, they're much more simple than the e-bike, so much more simple. But they're just different sizes, and that's sort of where you're running to.
I would even say, just to, like, I think service is the key differentiator. I mean, otherwise you could buy a bike. I mean, yes, I think we have a very cool and nice bike, but you can go into a store and buy a very nice and cool bike. But I think this thing that I have seen so many people that, I don't know, buy a Riese and Müller for 5,000 euros, and then they have a flat tire, and the store is too far away or has a 4-week wait time, and then they leave it in their garage for 6 to 12 months and never repair it. And I think that's the fundamental thing we are changing. Also, what the customers, if they experience this, then demand in a way. Like we had this one episode where we had delayed repairs for 4 weeks, and it was horrible. Like we still, our Trustpilot ratings are basically went like this because of those 4 weeks. So it's really demanding, but it's also the best thing about the like what people kind of buy. I used to joke that we need to, I don't know, install a small thing that gives people a flat tire after like 2 months of their
experience the service.
Yeah, and then they book a repair and then they will never cancel again. I mean, of course we didn't do that, but it's almost good if people do have a problem in the first 6 months, so that they kind of feel, oh, this was cool, like my bike is done and I didn't have to go somewhere and make an appointment.
Basically, actually, that is what we are doing, because we develop our own bikes. You have to do it at scale because you really need to make sure that the bike looks nice but is sturdy. And we are doing that for years now. So every part of our bike is being optimized for total cost of ownership, maintainability, sustainability, to a point that all of a sudden, or one of our important KPIs is the number of swaps per customer per year. So how often do you need to come back to us with a problem? That really dropped, and it dropped below a level that customers felt that, hey, this bike never breaks, but I'm paying for service.
Oh, so you didn't have enough touch points to justify that.
Yeah, the bike was too good. So we now also introduced touch-up points, which we can really plan also in our season. So if it's a little bit low season, we send out email reminders to customers.
So more like scheduled.
So, hey, we haven't seen you in a year. Probably your chain needs a bit of lubing. Come by our store. We check it, and you're good to go.
That sounds like a better idea than the flat tire.
I would agree. That's why the flat tire was only an idea. But yeah,
we have exactly the same feature. It's Children Grow, which has been going on for thousands of years. But the truth is when someone exchanges, it's like much like you guys. When you exchange, you stay with the club much longer. Like your propensity to stay longer is like 2 to 3 times where it would be if you don't exchange. And you do have members who never exchange, and it's a bit weird, and you wonder what's going on. But that's sort of that's what happens. It's quite interesting how the different models have to have those touch points with a member to make the service justify itself.
Yeah, I just want to pick. I don't know if you catch the subtle burn you had on the stores. You said you were a tech entrepreneur. I don't build stores. You actually have stores.
Yeah, I'm also.
Which is a bit surprising.
I have history in tech.
Yeah, but is for us stores. Is that a strategy going forward as well?
Yeah, we sometimes debate about it if we catch up. If you really get scale, stores bring you efficiency.
Oh, you pull the scale card. Like when you grow up, you will have stores.
Nice. No, but if you have a field service, which is what you have in a big city, you need to have a car or a bike, and you can service like 10 customers because there's like travel time in between. If you have a lot of bikes, and even if a small percentage breaks down, you have a lot of maintenance. If you have a lot of maintenance, and if you really then take the time into account that you need to travel, traveling to a store by customers is always then more efficient.
But let's dive into that, because if you deploy a fleet like a shared micro, I mean, you win the tender, you dump 15,000 scooters in there, and that justifies a huge operation you run in. But you basically start by building your customer base from 0 to 1.
Yeah.
So looking at a new market or a location, how does that look for you? Obviously Paris works for everyone, but another location than Paris, how do you evaluate it, and how do you set up operations?
So basically, I think the upfront investments in our model are probably also higher than in Christian's space, because we really need to find a location for a store, not in the real city center, but a little bit apart, but in a high dense area. Yeah. That also builds our brand. So having a store, having bikes with an iconic blue front tire, it helps. So we have a store. We put a field service in there. Put some cars to provide service. Sometimes have a warehouse close by to really be able to do repairs there as well, and to store bikes needed for growth. And then we start.
But how's that different for you, James?
So
what does the rest of Europe look like from your perspective?
Well, so for us, because we did have a store on Oxford Street, does not work in our model, and so that is no longer. So for obvious reasons, we just have the density. No, for us, when we launch a country, it's really about awareness and letting people know you exist in the country, and we don't have an ability to have a blue front tire. You could possibly do that, but we've never done it, and that would be sort of something for the future.
I will sue you.
Bad idea.
It's not about. I might borrow that, but no. So it's about awareness. So usually we do use limited levels of ATL, above the line spending on marketing, but also PR as well works very well. So Lisa, my country manager, she's been on German TV and sort of spoken about the service. That starts driving your initial customer base, and then you get quite a high referral rate in our model. So it's about 30% of our sales coming through from referral, and then you also get about 10 to 15% of upselling as well, because people tend to have more than one kid, and so they eventually get 2 bikes off us, and so you do a multi-bike discount, and that sort of works. It's funny because Germany has gone really, really well for us, but Spain didn't go quite so well for us. We actually pulled out of Spain last year, and interestingly, Spain, the marketing funnel drove huge awareness and volumes and traffic to the website. Just people weren't converting, and so the only thing we've put it down to is the Spanish average household income is a good 30-40% lower than that of Germany and the UK. So whereas in Germany they're paying for this hassle-free service, in the UK that makes a lot of sense. In Spain it was just, well, actually we'll do without, we'll survive without that. But for us it's a limited sort of awareness burst, and then you can manage that through digital spending and then drive that referral engine going.
Right. And how is that for? Where do your customer comes in? You also have a fairly visible bike on the streets, but I assume a lot of the traffic comes through more traditional online marketing.
It is actually a lot of referral. I think we're at about 40% coming from referral, and I think it's even more, honestly, in a way. It always depends on how you count it and what you can see and what you can't see in the data. But I will say that acquiring customers in the kind of, let's say, traditional way with performance marketing, out-of-home campaigns, and so on, it's very expensive, because also you compete with owning, right? You compete with stores that are in the city and so on. So it's always the way we see it is it's an initial investment in a city, and then you have to spend a lot to build up a base, but then it needs to grow from there. So I think without, in our model, without the density and the visibility and the word of mouth within the city, it wouldn't really work marketing-wise. I think it's also, I've visited now a lot of cities, and now with this bike view, right? My wife always makes fun of me because now I'm turning heads for oh, did you see that rear light and this and this? So it's I'm going through a city differently now. But it's what I've also seen is that bike and what kind of bikes, what kind of, I don't know, front basket, no front basket, all these things, it's very local. You almost have a feeling that there is a local scene. And now, for example, Paris for us is the biggest market, and you walk around in Paris and you cannot not see a dance bike. So it helps to drive, okay, what is this? This must be a thing, right? And that is really essential. And I can really imagine it's different for you, because basically people look for kids' bikes and you need to get them at that point where they put I want to buy a kid's bike or I need a kid's bike.
Yeah, parents do talk though, right?
Yeah,
We're all
exactly.
parents. You do. Oh yeah, have you seen this? Yeah, this is kind of interesting. So that works really well for us. But you're right. Like trying to do active referrals where you sort of work with parent-teacher groups and schools. That's the thing in the UK. It never really has worked for us because there's a way that you want people to be referring you in an honest way, like having that honest conversation. And yeah, it's having a marker on the bike. It's not. Doesn't quite work in the kids space, I don't think, so well.
We're talking about growth and how we get new customers in, but especially for you, Mark, been around for 10 years plus. When are the customer dropping off? Because you all definitely care about retention and churn.
Yeah.
When do you lose your customers? And why do they stop subscribing?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for us is if people are moving.
Okay. Yeah.
So we have a city by city approach. So if you live in Amsterdam, if you go out of the city and you move to a city where we are not active, then it stops. And I think second largest reason is buying your own bike.
Right.
So after 2 years, 3 years, or having a year an e-bike, if you really like an e-bike, and then if you want to have more options, so we provide the best service. But if you want a lot of choice in e-bikes, ownership is always there.
And for you, medium time of a customer is like how?
I think it depends per city. It depends per bike type. Or pedal bikes have the longest lifetime. Yeah. Average 2 years, but we had a focus group last week and.
Well, not lifetime of the bike. That was lifetime of the customer.
Yeah, lifetime of the customer. Yeah. So 2 years is customer lifetime on average, but on pedal bikes, if we have younger student populations, it's like during their entire studies, which can be 6+ years. Yep. I think with e-bikes it is 1.5 years now on average, but also there we have people that started on e-bikes and still have it when we launched them, and that's like now 4.5 years ago.
Just quickly on that, because you started on pedal, obviously a lot is moving to electric. 3 to 5 years. How big of the fleet is going to be electric, you think? Yeah,
I think we now see that e-bikes are growing the fastest. Like I said, over 61,000 e-bikes on the street. We do feel that there's, for us, a real big margin still for pedal bikes. So it provides a lot of service and mobility without also there the hassle of charging it, taking your battery. Prices are lower. Yeah. So we do feel that e-bikes will be growing, but there's always a place for pedal bikes in the model.
James, you mentioned price sensitivity earlier, but I want to ask a question for you, Christian, because you've been involved with kind of benefits bikes and tax incentives for employees, right? How important is that in your markets, that there are incentives in place for these kind of services?
I would say it's one of the most important things for making unit economics work. And not so much for us, but more for customers picking our model. So, for example, in Germany, we definitely see that a lot of people, like especially our target group, then goes into owning. But it is because the leasing is so big, right? So people go to leasing because it's so tax beneficial. And for example, in Paris and France, there is like a mobility budget where you actually get an invoice and you just submit it and then you have the tax benefit. So it's way easier and better to actually use the subscription and just submit the invoice instead of signing up for this 3-year complicated lease plan with like your company and so on. So that I think really helped. And I think it is kind of a major driver, I think, for models like ours to work. Because in a way, mobility in every city is somehow subsidized, right? I guess, I don't know, of course, but I guess almost every city has some sort of like public traffic ticket, and then usually you also have something where the company pays a bit, or bigger corporates have a discount. So you always have these types of things, and usually the tax benefits because it's a monthly fee, and I think price sensitivity in my experience is way higher when you have a monthly fee instead of you do like an impulse buy and like, oh, I love this bike. Doesn't matter that it costs 5,000 euros now. I'm exaggerating a bit, but I think the more we see tax benefits for more flexible models. And I think, I mean, the sharing community has been all over this for a long time. I think the more usage we will also see, because there is a difference if you save 40% on taxes, or if it's deducted from your salary and you don't really see it, right? So instead of like us charging your bank account every month. So yes, I mean, long answer, but I think it is very important, and it will also be important for cities to push that if they want to push different modes of mobility, I think.
So, from what we discussed so far, it seems like, I mean, obviously, we're looking at more denser, larger urban areas. Sufficient disposable income is another factor. I guess by culture, tax incentives. Like, what else are we looking for in markets to scale? Like, what are some of the characteristics when you evaluate markets?
For us, like a key thing in the UK and certainly in Germany is teaching your child to ride a bike is a rite of passage, right? So much like teaching your child how to swim, getting them to learn to read and write, learning to ride a bike is often seen in that sort of category. And so that's super important for us. I think more broadly in the UK, the cycling culture is not as strong as that of Germany. Germany has a very, like Germany, you can see it in the CPAs, like Germany has a much more efficient marketing budget than Germany, than the UK. And I think that's just because people in Germany are more open to getting a bike and going that way. And I think it's probably fair to say, I imagine Swapfiets have experienced that slightly in London, like which is a very strong cycling city. It is still it's generally a little bit harder the UK on the bike side of things, and our bike industry is a sixth of the size of Germany. It's a much smaller sort of cottagey industry. I think there are only about 2 or 3 over £100 million turnover bike businesses in the UK. So it sort of gives you an idea, and there's no billions, right? There's none of that. I think, the Netherlands has 3 or 4 billion turnover.
But let's get a little bit into like where this industry develops, because I mean, even though your fleets are significant, we're all still talking about a fairly like niche part of the industry. Going forward, what do we? I mean, is this going to be another space where the car OEMs eventually like just going to jump in and own it all? Is it going to move more towards like the leasing model or like more public consolidations? Like, where do you see this industry move? I mean,
I joke that in 5 years' time, Mark's going to be my boss. That's the way.
I thought you didn't want to say that on stage.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was thinking about it. It might actually stimulate something to happen. No, I think. I don't see the OEMs coming in because the bike supply chain is very everyone knows that this room, so it's wacky, right? And so that doesn't really work from a balance sheet like the car balance sheet. But I think we are onto a really interesting, quite profitable customer relationship. And I think once the capital markets kind of work out how to value this type of business, I think someone's going to build quite a nice scaled, consolidated position. And the reason why I joke about Mark is obviously pond-backed. They're a big balance sheet. They lean in over long term on mobility, and it fits that sort of wider strategy. Although I'm talking for you, Mark, so you can tell me that. But I think there is a key point here. My CMO does not want me to say this, but in terms of the capital markets, it would be much easier if we were selling bullets, not bikes, right? So this type of ESG type asset is not getting enough credit at the moment in those markets. So I think once that cycle needs to come through a bit more, we all need to scale a bit more. We've proven out our profitability journey. Dance has done exactly the same thing in the same time frame, and I know Swapfiets is doing the same thing. So I think as we've all proven those sort of cash flow generation of this type of model, I think then there'll be a consolidation of what's going to happen.
You just going to agree? We'll talk after?
Yes, we'll talk after.
No, I think what James is saying is correct. This is a very capital-intense business. So all of us have big needs for capital. I think for us it really helps that our shareholders are a large family-owned company looking at the long-term future, and they're into mobility. So they own 28 bike brands. So we also work with the bike brands, which really helps also to get our bikes at the right quality, at the right price, in our operations. So that really works. If you look at the future, I think also our shareholders, they really are into this model, although it requires upfront capital. So every city we operate in is like a dip in our capital or in our profitability, because we need this time to invest before a city becomes profitable. But also we've proven now year after year that in the cities that we're now in, so we were, I think a couple of years ago in 60 cities, then we scaled down to really make sure that we also are showing the profitability not on a city level, because that's, but really on a company level. And that's what we're doing right now in 45 cities. And we do see that if it works in these cities, there's also a list of new cities to join. And there might be a new product category on Kickstarters bikes as well. Whether we do it ourselves or with James, that remains to be seen.
We need some decent competition. So maybe.
So you said it. I mean, the bike value chain being very different from the OEMs, which I agree. But still, I mean, if we look at the car industry in terms of subscription, I mean, they got all of the asset financing figured out. Like, I mean, there's abundance of services to kind of build a service on. I mean, from your perspective, Christian, first of all, like, how do you finance your bikes? And do you envision a change in that's going to be easier for you to, like, buy the next batch of 10,000 bikes with a new financial partner in the future?
Yes and yes. So I think generally about the category, I think what we see, and it's always going slower than I want, but in general we see a trend towards more services, subscriptions, not owning stuff, more like service oriented, more flexible and so on. I mean, we have seen this in software, we have seen this in music, we have seen this, like, even, I mean, car subscriptions are way bigger than I would have thought, right? So it's I think there's this general trend that moves in that direction. So I think the good thing is it's always, like, I think in general it's good to be in a growing category. Do I think it should grow faster? Yes, it should. But I think this trend is not stoppable and will continue, and we will, like, it's going to be a big benefit for us. And I think also what we have also seen is that recurring revenue is a bit like a drug. It's so great that you kind of can predict your revenue. And I think, I mean, I have seen this in software firsthand, right? Where it was all about, oh, now version 4 is out, and now you have to pay, like, now you have to buy it for €1,000, and next year version 6 is out, and you need to upgrade for €500. But now that everything is subscription, where there's a continuous income, it's way better, right? It creates stability. It's way higher valued now, also on the public markets and so on. And where I'm getting to this is I think key to what we have now achieved in, like, getting to, like, a profitable track, but show recurring revenue. And now I'm getting to the financing. That actually then unlocks financing, right? Because the thing we have struggled with, and I guess also sharing providers and so on have struggled with, in the beginning we're like, hey, we want to buy 10,000 bikes. And banks and so on were like, yeah, I don't know, e-bikes, I can value a house, I can value a car, but I can't value an e-bike. And that has changed dramatically over the last 5 years. It's also, I mean, we have these second-hand e-bike marketplaces now. People see that there is a value even in an e-bike after 5 years, and that they are not all crap, but that's actually is a value that you can continue to use. But for us, the key thing is we can show, look, this is our retention rate, this is our revenue prediction, and it's going to be right by, like, a few %. And then a financing partner can come in. Yeah, okay, I'm going to finance on that revenue. So the asset, the bike itself, is just a means to achieve that.
That's not the point.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, and yeah, we have that set up. It's called asset-backed financing. So basically, the assets are the security, but what is really driving it is that the revenue that the assets create, a part of it immediately goes in as a security, and that's how it works.
But we had Bapaulis on stage here yesterday, and they joked that, you know, we're essentially a fintech company. We're working finance, and I think that's kind of your point. Like, I mean, it's enablable bikes, but
this is it. You got to build a lendable asset out of those subscription incomes. We spend so much time building data out of all these cohorts. Here's the predictability of the revenue, and then you try and leverage that effectively. Because and then plus the bike, and you create a lendable asset, and then we have an interesting capital market financed sort of sector effectively.
All right, we need to wrap up. Let's do the 30-second lightning round. The size of this market, I mean, what is it going to grow to? Let's think 5 years. How much of the market are we going to capture from your perspective, James?
I think you could easily see in Germany and the UK being 500,000 members if you keep going for it.
This is not just you; it's the subscription market.
Oh, sorry, as in the kids' bike subscription.
okay.
I could see that going to half a million, right?
Yeah.
I could see
Cool.
that going that way. Yeah.
500,000. Okay, Christian.
No, I think, and our focus is these bigger urban areas like Paris, potentially London, things like that. I think what we will see in those core markets, we will, and I don't know actually how it is in Amsterdam, but I could very well imagine that half of the bikes you see on the streets are some form of subscription service bike rather than owned bikes.
Yeah.
What that is in numbers, I don't know. I think for us it may be 100K or so, but that's definitely optimistic. I mean, I think one thing I also learned in this business, it doesn't go like this. Time is your biggest enemy, but also your biggest friend. You have to be careful to grow sustainable and on a good track to profitability.
And Mark, you have to remember to factor in James's numbers into your numbers then, right?
No, I think I do not predict any number. I am surprised by the growth. When I joined 4 years ago, I was looking in Amsterdam. In Amsterdam, at that time we had 40,000 bikes. So on every corner of the street, you would see these blue wheels there. In our long-term plan, then we said, "Hey, this is done, right?" So there's a plateau of users. Now we have over 70,000 members,
Right.
and now I'm not thinking about the plateau anymore. So I do not know where it's going. I do feel that if you look at the entire industry also should grow if there's enough players to help it grow. And having us here on the stage, we discussed yesterday. So we have 283,000 members. You have 70,000 bikes on the street. You have 13,000. This is the top 3, I would say, at least in Europe. If you go one step below, it really drops. Then you have players with 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 bikes.
Yes.
And for industry to really grow, you need more players, you have more enthusiasm, also from a financing perspective there. So hopefully it's not only us 3 that are driving the market. It can happen, but I think for a healthy market, you really need to have more players.
Excellent. I think that's a great place to end. So big hand for the panel. Thank you.